going to be very interesting. I've only been through Daniel a couple times. I've done some deep dive studies on it, but it's not really like, I wouldn't say it's like my favorite book. Like I think one of the books I really want to go through at one point is Judges because it's just so good. But let's talk about Daniel. All right, Daniel 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim. That is a name. We're going to call him Jeho, because that is a name. King of Judah into his hand, along with some of the articles from the temple of God. These he carried off to the temple of his God in Babylonia and put in a treasure house of his God. Then the king ordered these names right now. Then the king ordered Ash, chief of his court officials, to bring in some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility, young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and literature of Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food, wine, from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that they were to enter the king's service. Among these were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael. Wow, these are names. Oh, sorry. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel, the name Belshazzar. To Hananiah, Shadrach. To to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah, Abednego. I feel like I said all of those names wrong, and I'm super sorry. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and sympathy to Daniel, but the official told Daniel, I am afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king would then have my head because of you. Daniel then said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and I feel like I'm saying that name wrong, Azariah. It's a freaking fire name. Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearances with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier, better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. To these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them in, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, I don't think I'm saying that right, Azariah. So they entered the king's service in every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them. He found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. And Daniel remained there until the 1st year of King Cyrus. So in the first 5 verses, it's talking about how the Israelites were conquered. Like, Nebuchadnezzar came in, the Babylonians came in, they destroyed them, they took everything, and they took everything that was of value to them and put it before their gods, which is why you're going to see the little g. I hope you have your Bible, which is why you're going to see the little g, because they're putting things before their God. And then you have later on that Daniel, they took men, of course, that are like good looking, because they're like, yeah, that's like the ones that I'm gonna want. It's so wild how culture hasn't shifted from that. Like, if you look the best, or you have the most muscle, or you look this certain way, then you're seen as more worthy, which does not make a lick of sense to me. Don't get it. But that's what's going on here, right? And they're taking these guys and they're taking them into the palace. 6 through 14, you see Daniel actually make a choice. Daniel's making a choice in this day. He could either go completely with what is happening, because they're conquered by the Babylonians at that time, so it could have been really easy to just fall in line and go, okay, this is what they do, this is how they live their life, I'm just gonna do that, I'm gonna lay low and just try to get through this, right? He could have done that. It would have been way easier. Him, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, totally gonna call them that because I cannot say their names correct, but they could have all just fell in line and not went against what the Babylonians were trying to do. But what did they make the choice to do? They made the choice to still honor the Lord in the midst of being conquered. And that is a testimony in and of itself. If we take anything away from chapter 1, it's that he's saying, Lord, even when it seems like death and despair have come, and that it would be easier to just turn my back, I'm going to choose to honor you. I'm going to choose to, even asking the question is a risk at that point, right? Because Daniel's kind of showing his cards when you think about it. Daniel's going, hey, can I do this? Which is in turn saying, I'm going to honor my God and not honor your king. Like, when you kind of understand it that way of like, my God knows better, it's kind of risky. It's really risky, especially when the land had been conquered, and it would have been very easy to just be like, oh, they're just being, in the words of like the military, insubordinate, so we can just knock them off, right? It'd be so much easier to just get rid of that. But that doesn't happen because he has favor, because the Lord brings favor to him because he honors him. That's what's happening. And so then when you get through to the rest, but you see something happened at the end, that they made choices to honor the Lord. And because of that, they came out stronger, they came out wiser, they came out more whole. And we can take those things into our own lives and go, okay, God, in the midst of right now, what does it look like to be a Daniel? What does it look like to be Daniel in chapter 1? To choose you anyways. And I think for us right now, instead of having to choose between eating and eating like regular rich foods and eating vegetables, right? I think for us, it's between choosing entertainment and the things that the world is telling us is valuable, or choosing his presence, choosing to live in his word, choosing to cultivate our relationships with the Father. That's what we're getting from Daniel. That's what it looks like to be a Daniel 1 in today's day. Are you going to do the hard thing of saying no to hanging out with friends or going to parties or doing things that look fun, but at the end of the day leave you empty? To go sit with the Father and become whole and be full. I've realized that I don't want to live my life with a half-empty cup. I want to live my life from overflow, and I can't do that unless I cultivate the relationship with the Father, unless I go in and I say, I'm not going to choose this, but I'm going to choose this. And that's what it would look like to be Daniel in the midst of this day, to be a Daniel 1. What are we going to choose? Are we going to choose the easy path of, I'm just going to go along with what everybody else says, I'm just going to do what everybody else is doing because that's easier? Or am I going to choose to be a person of his presence? And what happens with Daniel after that? You see him become, he becomes the wisest, right? It talks about all of them having the most wisdom, and there's nobody in the land that can touch them. And they were just honoring the Lord in the midst of what they probably thought was death and despair. What looked like the end of it all. They chose the Lord anyways. And that's something for us to model our lives after in Daniel 1. So that's all I got. We're going to do Daniel 2 tomorrow. So if you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, just favorite this and then you can just come back. Wouldn't that be fun? So we're going to do Daniel 2 tomorrow, which is about Nebuchadnezzar's dream. I'm really excited about that. And if you have questions about Daniel 1, we can break it down. I'm also reading out of the NIV. I usually read out of the NLT, but I'm going to read out of the NIV because it's my study Bible, and I like to read out of the NIV. So tomorrow, bring your Bible. Bring your Bible, and we're going to go over Daniel 2. So